Many approach a master because the image they have created of themselves is in harmony with an ashram, yoga, the clothes, the art, the incense, the Sanskrit names, and so on. As a rule, such people quickly elaborate an image of the Guru. Jai Prabhuji, hello everybody. We are continuing our course about the book Experimenting with the Truth, and specifically the article about relationships. And today, as we read in these words, we are going to take a detour inside this topic of relationships into a very specific relationships that we have already spoken about, not in this context of relationships in length, but more before this when we spoke about the master-disciple relationship. And this is a relationship with the, we can say, spiritual realm, religious aspect, with the scriptures, with the divine, with a mosque maybe, with a synagogue maybe, with our church. Prabhuji mentions here an ashram, but I think we can apply it to whatever applies to each individual, and is the elements in our life that are intended to connect us with the transcendental. And what Prabhuji tells us here, interestingly, after we've spoken about the pattern that we have as egos, as individuals, to create self-images, which means images of ourselves, and also to create images of everyone else, as we see, comes with us also to this relationship. The same pattern to create images of everything, we can say. Everything that we have access to, we immediately create some picture, some idea, some explanation about it. And this is why we don't have always access to the thing itself, we can say, whatever it may be. Now we speak very generally. Is also applicable to the, again, spiritual path. So what Prabhuji tells us, also when we come to the ashram, we create an image of how this ashram looks, of the clothes, of the atmosphere even, of the Guru, which is an important topic that we are going to delve into in a minute, and of ourselves as being part of it. So we imagine ourselves as spiritual beings, how we are supposed to look, how we want to look, what we are going to get from it for our self-image improvement, we can say. That we said as egos, our obsessive attempt in life is to nourish the self-image, is to beautify the self-image, is to protect the self-image. This is our instinctive motivation in everything that we do. And it comes to us also when we aspire to break free from the self-image. We also immediately want to know, as egos, as individuals, what we are going to get for our self-image. How we are going to protect our self-image and feel better and be more distant from the danger that we spoke about in the previous class. The self-image wants to get close to whatever brings it peace, some relief, some happiness, and get distance from whatever causes it pain. This is our motivations as egos, as self-images. The same thing happens in the spiritual realm. But of course, when we approach an ashram, a guru, and again, any other spiritual path or discipline or any inquiry even into the truth, we are originally desiring to break free from the self-image. We want that this path, this guru, this ashram will help me to stop this chase of trying to protect the self-image and escape the dangers of life, but relax in life and know who really I am beyond this self-image. But our mechanism is so strong. Prabhuji spoke with us about the powerful mechanism that it comes with us into this relationship as well. And what I think that Prabhuji brings our attention to in these words that we need to be aware that also when we approach the ashram, there are two motivations. One motivation is, as we said again, to nourish the self-image, to protect the self-image, to make a better self-image in short. The other motivation is to break free from the self-image. These two reasons can cause us to join an ashram. And we might also be able to identify individuals that are more established in the desire to break free and other individuals that are more superficial and more care about the self-image. But in my eyes, the picture of these two individuals are not in order to look externally and judge, or even not look at ourselves as a self-image and judge. Are we spiritual seekers, genuine spiritual seekers, or are we just superficial beings that want to feel better with ourselves? I feel that I think and feel that the retroprogressive yoga wisdom aspires to bring us to really see and not to judge and not to categorize and not to define, not others and not ourselves, but to see. And in my opinion, most of us, most likely, are going to find these two motivations living together. And we don't need to say how opposite they are from one another, totally contradicting. They are in a way fighting with each other. We on one hand want to break free from the self-image, but at the same time we are afraid and we want to feel good and we don't want to, we're not ready to commit suicide. We're still individuals that are concerned about our being in these experiences in life. And the process is to bring more and more attention and awareness to ourselves in a way, and to the patterns that we have that cause us to forget the spiritual direction. And when I say spiritual direction, I mean the desire to break free from the self-image. And we need constant reminders in a way to remind ourselves really what we want, why we are here in this situation, what really we wanted, why we joined the ashram, why we came to this guru. And I feel that once we understand that we have this tendency to create images, to define, and to protect our self-image, we can be watchful of the direction that we take that are not in line with our liberation. And I think that these words of Prabhuji are very helpful to bring our attention to this phenomenon in us. And once we bring an attention, we can be more focused naturally in our liberation. Once we bring an attention, we are already more focused in our liberation, because we are not in the level of the reaction, but we are in the level of the work, of the observation. The work, as I see it, of the retroprogressive yoga is to see whatever there is in us. But the understanding, the intellectual understanding that we ultimately want to stop this obsessive chase of improving ourselves as images and really live, helps us a lot in the process of observation in general in our retroprogressive evolution, we can say. And particularly the relationship with the master, with the guru, with the person that we recognize as a qualified guide to help us to break free from these self-images. We spoke about this relationship in length in the chapter about the master-disciple. Is important to understand in the light of this topic of the self-images and of the relationships in general. In a way, these two topics are very connected, and I think this deepening in the problem of our relationships and of the fact that we create images of ourselves and of others is very important to connect it also to the understanding of the guru relationship, if you want to understand this relationship, if this is interesting for us. The fact, as we said in the previous class and classes, the fact that we as individuals create images of ourselves and of others does not allow us to really come in touch with them. We spoke about it in the previous class. We block ourselves from experiences of others, from information, from understanding. So we don't only, maybe in some cases, do some harm to them, so to say, because we look at them in a judgmental way, whether positive or negative, but of course it's worse when it's negative, because then we are more blocked to them, to their presence, to their information. Not only we do harm to them in some way, but we prevent ourselves from having access to the reality, and then we are more limited as individuals to act, to react, to think, to etc. This is more problematic, this is critical in the relationship with the guru. If we make an image of the guru, whether good or bad, and relate to him as this image, as our own judgment, as our own thoughts about him or her, the main problem for it is that we don't listen to the guru. We don't examine what he really says, why really he acts in the way that he acts, which this is our path of master-disciple relationship. The guru is an acharya. We want to understand, listen, follow, but not in a blind way we follow this individual, but through this listening, through this acceptance, through this examination. The Guru tells us so much in every sentence, but because of our tendency to create images and to not listen and to not be present, we hardly manage to pay attention to what the Guru tells us. And this is true, in my opinion, also if we read books or watch lectures. If we don't project our mind but manage to really listen, we are likely to receive a lot of benefit in our retroprogressive evolution, in our path toward breaking free from the self-image, the path of transcending our chase as egos to increase our enjoyment and decrease our suffering. If you really want to be in reality, and not in this reality of our self-images, of our egos, of our personal life, individual life, that are oftentimes very disconnected from the reality. If you want really access to things as they are, the listening to the Guru is of tremendous benefit. And again, the same problem that we have in really creating relationships, opening in relationships, comes to us also into this field. So here Prabhuji talks about the problematic aspect of the relationships in relation to our freedom, our liberation. In other words, Prabhuji tells us, this topic of relationship is not in order to make friends. It's not only in order to be better family members, to conduct better at our workplace. All these are going to be benefited for sure as well if we are going to be more advanced in observation, in ability to listen, to communicate, etc., with more connection to our essence and some distance from our self-image. But they are major, they are significant in our retroprogressive evolution, in our meditation. Prabhuji oftentimes speak about the fact that the same problem that we have in life, to interact with other people will come to us also when we sit and close our eyes and attempt to meditate. We are the same personality with the same problematic patterns. However, very few of us approach a master longing to see and seeking the help of someone who can point out those painful internal wounds that we have tried to ignore. Masters will not nourish the image or satisfy its desires. Quite the contrary. They will bring attention to those painful places of the past and invite us to watch. So here Prabhuji talks with us in a way we can say about the real work. The real work in the ashram. Not the work in the level of the images. Not the image of us enjoying and meditating and dressing very spiritual and acting like angels, etc. The real work with us and ourselves, between us and ourselves. And what Prabhuji tells us, that the Guru is not going to support some artificial environment when we are not in touch with who we really are as egos, with our tendencies, but bring us to the situation and to the desire to pay attention, not to escape from ourselves, because only we can get free from ourselves if we watch what currently limits us and causes pain. This is our only way to release this pain. I remember that when we used to have visitors in the ashram, so I remember that in conversation, many times I witnessed that many individuals were very enjoying the ashram and Prabhuji's presence, and so open and so enjoying the yoga and the satsang, etc. Very ecstatic and excited. But in personal talks, the difficult point for them was to understand that to see ourselves with the ugly places is a positive direction for the yoga and meditation and peace that we enjoy and we want. And we may be touched in the presence of Prabhuji, in the presence of the Guru. And I think it's something that I gave it a thought because I witnessed it, how much it's difficult for people to recognize that, to look at ourselves not as beautiful beings, but as ugly beings, or not as ugly beings, we are beautiful beings still, but to see what is ugly in us, we can say, is not against us. It's even not painful. It's not destructive, but the opposite. It's going to distance us from our pain and allow us to be more in relaxation, in yoga and meditation. And my contemplation about it led me to conclude that because we are so much living in condemnation as individuals, we have so much condemnation, all of us, underneath the self-images. Prabhuji spoke about it previously, and we are going to quote again Prabhuji and analyze some example in a minute. But we read from Prabhuji in previous articles how, because we are not desiring to be in touch with our painful places, we cover them with a self-image, with coverings, with ideas, with actions, with look that will make us hide and forget these painful places in us. But we also spoke about the problem that once we do it, we don't really eradicate the pain, but the opposite. It continues to exist because everything that we do is because of this pain. It's another expression of this pain. If I hide something because I'm afraid, the fear is in the hiding. As beautiful as the hiding can be, no one maybe will notice what is underneath, but I constantly know, because this is the motivation of the covering. So the only way to really work on this pain is to stop hide, is to stop suffocate this pain, is to stop being so afraid of these places. So I think that what the retroprogressive yoga invites us into is not to judging ourselves, is not to condemning ourselves. It is as opposite as possible than condemnation. It's not to suffer, but is to meet our weaknesses that we forgot already because they are so much hidden. We don't want to see them. And I think the retroprogressive yoga invites us to get familiar with them, to be comfortable in their presence, to shake hands with our weaknesses, to sit together. And once we are okay with seeing this pain, only then really the pain can start to break down and ultimately, hopefully, will disappear, will be less and less significant, less and less controlling us. Because what finally causes us the pain is not the pain itself, as Prabhuji explains to us, but the escape from the pain. The energy that we invest, that no one will see, no one will know, including ourselves, requires from us much more energy than simply pay attention. We don't want to cause pain, to increase the pain. We just want to pay attention. So I think that again, direction to forget the pain, what Prabhuji tells us, is what doesn't really allow us to be released of it. Recently, Prabhuji spoke with us about the fact that the only suffering that we experience is resistance. There is no suffering. The suffering that we experience is because we are resisting to something. And this resistance is suffering in itself. And this is exactly what we are speaking about here. So in these words of Prabhuji, he tells us, the Guru, that is the person that we came to in order to be released from our pain, will not advise us to hide, forget, imagine a reality that is not our reality. Get far from what is underneath us that we don't want to see. He will invite us to pay attention slowly, gradually, but to really what is there, really what we call our demons. Let's see them. And then, thanks to the Guru's help, thanks to our ability to be in these situations, relax in the situation, accept our imperfections, we can really get closer to where the Guru leads us to. But the Guru is saying he can bring us to the door. We can, for many moments, can feel ourselves free from our self-image, even though we are not free in his presence. But if we really want to be free, which is the desire of every genuine disciple and the desire of the Guru, he really wants us free from him. We spoke about it. Then he must invite us into these places. This is the path that he walked, that every realized being had to walk in order to break free. So this is also where the Guru, if he's a genuine Guru, must take us. And it is never against us, it's only for us. And this is the only way, fortunately or unfortunately, to our liberation. But of course, for a genuine seeker, it is fortunately. This is what we want. We want the real work. We want to stop covering and escaping and cheating ourselves and cheating others. We want to live free from it. And this is where a genuine master will always take us into. Previously, we read an example of Prabhuji that I want to read again and then speak about it in the light of the spiritual work as I see it with a genuine master. So let's read. For example, lonely people create an image that allows them to receive as much attention as possible. Motivated by this need for human warmth, they develop an image of an artist or public speaker. Okay, so this is an example that we read in the beginning of this article we have already spoken about, and I want to bring it here in the context of the topic of the work with the master in an ashram or in any other path, with a genuine, realized being that wants to help us break free from the images. So in this example, Prabhuji tells us, speaks about discovering The example for it is people that feel lonely inside. We feel that we are lonely because of experience that we had in our childhood. We are going to be attracted to a self-image of a public speaker, of a famous artist, maybe of a politician. We want to get as far as possible from our loneliness to feel welcome, to feel loved by many people, so we don't feel this loneliness that is underneath. In my opinion, if we are one day as these beings understanding that really this is not who we really are, this public figure, it is something that is still artificial, and we want to get closer to ourselves, and we want to join an ashram or follow some individual that can maybe help us and bring some light to us. This individual will not create for us an artificial situation that will distance us from loneliness forever. Now we are going to be a successful disciple that gives many lectures and feels loved by many people and forgets the loneliness. The Guru will encourages us, never force us, but invites us, encourages us to accept the loneliness, to meet the loneliness, to be in situations when we will experience this loneliness. And only there we can understand from where this image was created and why we don't need this self-image to feel not lonely. The solution to the loneliness is not in the covering and the running away from the loneliness, but in the loneliness itself we can find the solution. We need to go there, and there we can, through observation, through acceptance, meet ourselves as complete, whether we are lonely or not lonely. Probably we will like loneliness more after this process, but this is just an example that we want to give for any other tendency as well. Loneliness is just an example. But any egoic mechanism that we have that causes us to be mechanical and escape the reality and escape certain situations and favor other situations is going to be diminished and released once we bring to it attention and light. And this light and attention is not likely to occur when we escape from it, when we have situations that make us forget it. But it's more likely to happen when we are facing it. So the Guru, again, is going to bring us, as Prabhuji said, this is the word that we read, to the wounds, to the painful places. And there we can, again, break free. If we surrender to a master, but foster a hidden agenda of nourishing our image, being in the Guru's presence will be unbearable, and eventually we will leave. On the other hand, if we want to really see, surely we will be blessed with the grace of observation. What Prabhuji tells us here, we spoke about two motivations that we have. If we are approaching the spiritual realm, the Guru, with a desire to break free, with a genuine aspiration, we will walk with the Guru into the painful places and meet our happiness, our freedom. But if we don't enough want it, or if we tend to forget it easily, and go back to the motivation that is to nourish the self-image, the Guru's presence will be unbearable, because it's the opposite direction. We are going into opposite directions. We want to go further from the pain towards the happiness. The Guru says, no, go towards the pain and stop chasing this happiness. It doesn't bring you happiness. If we are in different directions than where the Guru takes us, it will be the worst conditions for us to live in, because we are not in this desire to break free. We want to survive as individuals, and this threatens us. So what the Guru tells us here again, Prabhuji tells us here again, is that in this context of the master-disciple relationship, our understanding as individuals, our desire as individuals, our agenda, we can say, as individuals, is very significant. It is not enough that the Guru wants us to be free. It is not enough that we have the most enlightened Guru. It is not enough that you have a very favorable conditions, beautiful ashram with amazing spiritual brothers and sisters and the best conditions with the wisdom to break free. If our will is not established in the right place, if we are not sure what we want, if we are getting confused, you are forgetting what we wanted, this surrounding will not help us. So, in a way, the Guru can help us to a great extent, but he cannot do the ultimate work for us, which is the focus, desire, attention in breaking free. We spoke about it in the context of the master-disciple relationship. In a way, we disciples utilize the Guru for our liberation, but we need to be focused what we want. If we get confused and distracted, then we are not likely to fulfill our direction, which is what we wanted. But if we are in association with a true path, with wisdom of truth, with a genuine realized being, and what we want is liberation, this is like gaining a lottery. We cannot even imagine something as good as this happening to us in our lives. And Prabhuji called here the ability to see, to work, to distance ourselves from the pain, the grace of observation, very beautifully. We spoke previously more intellectually, more to understand that we want to look and why we want to look. But ultimately, if we are focused in this desire to break free and using the conditions of the ashram, of the Guru, for growth, for liberation, for remembrance, then we are likely to receive the grace of observation. So ultimately, what we speak about when we say to see our wounds, to see the loneliness, to see the painful places, is a grace. It's not an intellectual process. And this grace of observation will allow us to see more and more, and as we said, not in a condemning way, not in a painful process, but in enjoyment. It is a grace. It's a grace of observation. It's a beautiful place to be once we are able to watch and distance ourselves from our pain and suffering, from our patterns, from our mechanism that is so much controlling our lives. Psychology offers valuable instruments to improve our self-esteem and reinforce our own image. Therapists can help us find a better way to conceptualize ourselves and place us on the path to normative functioning in society. However, the Master's work is to lead us to the supernormal, to transcend the image, to go beyond, and totally liberate us from it. Creating and maintaining our image makes us susceptible to injury and offense, whereas living without it allows us to experience freedom and peace. So here Prabhuji talks to us about a very important distinction. And is the distinction between psychological work and spiritual work. Tremendous distinction to understand if we wish to transcend our self-image and be more spiritual. If we're attracted to the transcendental, we can easily get confused. And Prabhuji does this clear distinction. And I think as we spoke previously in relation to the two motivations, we first want to analyze and understand the two principles that Prabhuji talks about. And then we may be able to apply it to ourselves and our attempt to watch and analyze and make progress in the ability to transcend the self-image or in the retroprogressive path. So what Prabhuji tells us, when we talk about psychology, therapists, the attempt is to improve us as images, that we will be more adaptable more acceptable, more comfortable, conducting better, functioning better. When we speak about the spiritual realm, we don't want to improve our self-image, but to recognize ourselves transcendentally to it, regardless of our image. Our direction is destructive and not constructive, as we said, not because we are against ourselves, but because we understand that this image is what causes us suffering. We want to recognize ourselves transcendentally to the self-image. We are not busy in improving our self-image. Our progress is not measured if we are more acceptable, if we are more adaptable. The tricky part, in my opinion, and which makes it difficult to understand, is that the psychological work, we can say, can be very favorable in our evolution, can be supportive, can be important. It's not rejected by Prabhuji. It's not rejected by any religions. Even religions recommend to us to improve our qualifications, our qualities, to act more in harmony, more in kindness, etc., to do better actions even. All this is busy with the self-image, but the goal is the recognition of the self-image. Another reason that I think it's tricky is because we necessarily expect that once we advance in the evolution, the spiritual evolution, we will also manage better in life, manage better in relationship, be more kind, more communicative, more in harmony. But this is an expression, a consequence of being established in the essence, we can say. But what Prabhuji makes it clear here, and it's very important to understand because we are so likely to get confused there in this process, is that we should never forget that this is not our goal, to be accepted, to be liked, to act in harmony as individuals, that we will be beautiful individuals. And that our goal is always to be established in the essence that is transcendentally to the image, and not to forget. Because as more as we get positive reinforcement, we are likely to get confused and forget what we wanted. Okay, so what causes us to forget is either we get positive reinforcement and be attracted to the self-image, we want to go back to the self-image, or because it's painful for us, the process. These are two things that will cause us to forget. But the remembrance will always bring us back to the understanding that ultimately we are not this self-image. Our aspiration is not to nourish the self-image, but to be who we are. And who we are is not all these coverings and ideas and explanations that we give to ourselves and to others, but it is the what Prabhuji I think called enigmatic aspect of us. It's our existence transcendentally to all this. This is not the goal. We might be the most spiritual, giving, beautiful being, etc., but our enjoyment of it is slavery. Our attraction to this image is slavery. We want to, in a way, not care about our self-image, but only always focus in the seeing that is transcendentally to the self-image and of the self-image. We want to watch the self-image. We don't want to be the self-image in a way. So I think this is where Prabhuji takes us with this word into. Living without images means experiencing the world without recording, accumulating, or storing our experiences. It means observing reality without memorizing our perceptions. If we wish to observe a tree, any thought, interpretation, or idea about the tree will prevent us from observing it directly. Living without images means living meditatively and watching without reacting or memorizing. Clear perception of reality requires complete internal silence and total freedom from all thoughts. The superimposition of our memory on observations takes away clarity. We cannot watch through the filter of our memories of situations, moments, discussions, offenses, and so forth. Attention means looking without trying to alter what we see. Being present, completely attentive, and watchful of this moment's reality means that the image we have made up about ourselves will disappear. Our death as images occurs when situating ourselves in the present. So, in these words of Prabhuji, I feel that we get more than help for our intellectual understanding, a meditation guidance, we can say. So these are the words that I like to just listen to and try to penetrate our tendency for creating images that we spoke about in the beginning of this class, and really listens to what Prabhuji tells us. And there we get all the answers. My words are definitely not necessary. If we just listen to Prabhuji, what he really tells us, we can connect to the Guru, to this work, and get access to this grace of observation. And I recommend listening very carefully to these last words and maybe even listening to them again and be attentive to what Prabhuji tells us. And these words concluded with the aspect of being in the present, that our death as images is when we are able to situate ourselves in the present. Prabhuji tells us ultimately, once we are here, we can really observe. And we will conclude this class with this point, but the next class is going to be elaborated on this topic of being in the presence, of being now and being here, something we hear so often. And we are going to take a tour with Prabhuji into an analysis, into the understanding of these words, of this state. What does it really mean to be here? What does it really mean to be now? So in this we will conclude the class of today. Thank you for joining. Jai Prabhuji.